All right, this is going to be pretty impromptu since I just want to fill everyone in on what we discussed and kind of what we took action on after the fact, after the discussion. So during the discussion, we kind of settled on these four shaders as something that's probably fine to use. However, a lot of these shaders have a lot of bloat. This is also me having mine turned up like pretty intensely as well here. It won't usually be like this crazy, but just something to keep in mind. However, since there is so much bloat and honestly options that you can change that will just absolutely like cook your fucking game, we had Lem combine a lot of shaders into one thing. Um, so now if I were just to go back to where I was, I'm gonna have to do the jump again really quickly, but it'll be fine. I had this problem yesterday where like as soon as I needed to actually land this jump in a case that mattered, I just missed it like 5 times in a row. Let me in. Thank you. I think honestly this is a good place to show it off too, because this platform below me really pops once you start turning some stuff up. So this is without any other gamma stuff turned on. I like personally turning up my RGB gamma, and you can already see that that has like a kind of decent job defining like this edge here. And then uh, both linear and just gamma like this just changes the way that the information is processed. Basically, linear gamma just means that you're increasing the gamma linearly, but if you don't have it checked, then it increases on like a curve. You can get the same values, it just kind of gives you a different look for where you drag things. I personally like all my gamma correction turned up and this to 3 with linear gamma on. I think it looks the most gamma-esque. And then we have a couple other options here. The main reason we have these options, let me just make sure I have display capture on, which it looks like I do, is because in NVIDIA, this thing here, there already is like stuff like, I think it's because I already have it here, like brightness and contrast. This is what people use to turn up gamma, but you can already use this to like bump up your shadows and shit like that. So it's just trying to add some sort of feature parity to reshade, like at least this thing that the NVIDIA control panel has. I personally don't mess with this, but I do like cranking the vibrance up. You'll mostly notice on this on Cody's half of the screen. See, it's very dull here, but if I just crank this, it just brightens this up a little bit and makes it look a little less ass to look at. And then there's some sharpening that you can do as well, just to potentially define those edges just a little bit better. That might be a little bit easier to show off down here. You can pay attention to the textures on the ground too. That's usually a good way to kind of tell. Or the textures around Cody is another good way to tell, like all these ground textures and some textures in the back. If you watch me slide this back and forth, you can kind of see the sharpening in the ground apply. And then if I do beforehand, it does like some weird stuff in terms of like darkening, but yeah, you get like this slightly more defined edge, which some people might find help with their gamma issues. But I think the combination of these tools lead to a very similar to what we use NVIDIA for and the control panel. Again, vibrance is something that is able to be done in the panel and also in the general NVIDIA control panel. Give me a second for this to boot. This thing, if you go to, so how we normally would increase gammas with this, literally digital vibrance is literally right here. So you could use this to crank your shit if you wanted to do stuff. You guys can't see it because of the way that OBS captures this information. This is just changing my monitor, not like my actual recording. So having this here is nice, especially since it does add a little bit of lightness to this. The only other thing that's a concern with it, though, is that if I go to something like Garden, I think it's, and we literally just use this. It's when you have like a lot of colors on screen. Now this might change a decent bit depending on how much vibrance you already have at your setup. Me as a person that plays a lot of TAC FPS games, I already have like a native amount of gamma or vibrance in my monitor just because it helps with visibility. But I just turned this to like 0 when I was doing the testing just to see how it feels. But if I turn off like basically all of these settings, besides vibrance, this is basically as intense as it will ever get in terms of vibrance. Now, again, on my main monitor, this looks cooked because I already have vibrance turned up. But that's like, imagine I could bring this to like 1.5, and that's basically what mine is at. Again, this is like basically for just personal taste. You can see that the difference is like very minimal, but it does a good enough job doing what we want it to do. And it can, if you do have a shitty monitor and you don't want to have to like, if you want better colors or like nicer to look at colors without absolutely destroying everything else, because like I said, mine is monitor based, which means it affects everything that I do on my monitor. This is a nice alternative. And then even here with like all the details and stuff, if I turn up the sharpening, nothing is too intense. You can just notice that it kind of sharpens the edges around certain characters and stuff, and then depending on before and after is again very minimal. But that's the basic idea. We came up with this. I think this is a good solution. We can use hotkeys to swap between them. You can either swap between profiles. Like I think right now I have one other profile that has a bunch of random other shit on, but you can set a hotkey to kind of basically toggle between profiles like this very quickly. So that way you can have certain settings that you would want and then just toggle between them and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the general idea of what we're looking to do with Reshade. I'm going to try to write something up that puts everything what I just said together in a much cleaner way. But I wanted to make sure that everyone else has a general idea of what we did during the meeting and kind of what we did after the fact. So let me know if you have any questions and if there's any other concerns you guys might have, but I do want some feedback on it. It'd be great.